Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. Well, designated a historic landmark in 1972, we are actually sitting in the Pico House, which is part of the El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historic Monument, and I am delighted to be joined by the general manager of this magnificent area, Arturo Chávez. So nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Maria.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
All right, so we're in one tiny piece of this El Pueblo Historic Monument, so it encompasses what?
Well, the Pueblo Historic Monument encompasses 44 acres. That include 8 museums and galleries, historic structures. You're sitting in the Pico House, the first hotel in Los Angeles. We have the firehouse, which is the first firehouse in Los Angeles. We have the Placita Church, which is across the street. We have the Casa Avila Adobe, which is the first home and the oldest house in Los Angeles, built in 1818. We also have the Sepulveda House. We have the famous Siqueiros mural. So we're bounded by all of these historic structures and locations.
I have so many questions, but just because I've never been in the Pico House before, this structure itself, you said it was a hotel?
First hotel in Los Angeles. Pio Pico was the first Mexican governor of the state of California. It was a partnership with him and Antonio Cuyo, right? And it was the architect was Ursa Kaiser. So it's quite a spectacular location. It's been preserved, and it still looks beautiful.
Yes, definitely. And this is sort of an esoteric question, but you listed all of the things that are here and the importance of them and the historic relevance. But how does that information and that awareness actually change a life?
Well, there's a lot of reasons that it changes people's and impacts life. It depends. Everybody's experience is different, obviously. But example, the 44 pobladores that started here, right, when there's a plaque here at the plaza, when people see the names and who they were, that creates a whole different reality for people who founded this place. Although Spain, King Carlos III was the one that initiated Governor Felipe Neve to come found this location. The people that actually founded it were indigenous people, they were blacks, there were different individuals that came here. And so you're looking at a group of people that, you thought like, oh, I thought it was just a bunch of Spaniards that came and did this, which is fine. But you see now that it's quite a mix of folks that came to found the city of Los Angeles, similar to what the city is now. That's one impression that people have.
All right, Olvera Street and the merchants and the fact that, they're back, because that is probably something a lot of people think about, especially if they want to come enjoy the city and great food and fun things to buy, etc. But the merchants themselves are an interesting component to all of this, because a lot of them have actually been here for decades, or their family businesses. So there's a lot of history there too, is there not?
Yes, I mean, the merchants were founded in 1930 through Christine Sterling on Easter Sunday. These merchants have been, many of these are families that have been around here for over 91 years. The majority of these merchants have been, obviously they're not the actual initial merchants, but their families have been here since 1930. Some of which, for example, started out as shoeshine boys, their families, their grandfathers, and ended up getting business here. And so they still are here present. They have been determined a cultural resource through the city. And what we've looked at is that those families have survived and have had a lot of success with their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And they've grown up here on the street. Kids have grown up here and knowing each other since they were working with the shops and with their families, right?
There's a lot of art and there's lots of murals, but there's one mural in particular, the Siqueiros mural.
David Alfredo Siqueiros painted this mural in 1932. It was quite a shock when it was revealed. He was one of the biggest Mexican muralists, along with Diego Rivera and Orozco, and he was also believed in public art, and that art should be for everyone, right? And so walls should be covered with art, right? And as a result of that, this mural has been conserved.
Why was it controversial
the major theme in the middle of the thing was an indigenous person strapped to a double cross with an American eagle overhead, invoking the imperialism of the United States.
You could spend multiple days here because it's not just a one-stop, and even you were saying that there are a number of organizations that are now housed here and do good works here, and there's a lot of changing of exhibits in specific spaces. What are some of the secrets that people may not think of right off the top of their mind when they're thinking about coming up? Obviously, they're going to go to Olvera Street. They might go to the Adobe, but what are some of the don't miss, even though you may not realize it's their places?
There is, obviously, we've mentioned the other museums, like the Chinese American Museum that people don't go to, and also the firehouse that people are not aware of when they think of Olvera Street, right? The firehouse and the Chinese American Museum. But those museums are very important to show, as the firehouse was one of the first firehouses here. You also have a lot of other small hidden places here in Olvera Street. We also have the Methodist Church here that has a Museum of Social Justice in the basement. So there are other places that can be viewed and tours that can be taken and given to you.
If in fact things stay stable, now you get to do everything you were hoping to do before you ended up living in a virtual world and in a lockdown city. What did you hope that you were going to be able to do, and now have you altered what you have hoped to do, knowing what you know with 18 months of thought? Or do you have certain plans that you want to pursue? What's on the future docket for the area?
Well, immediately what we want to do is reinstitute some of the cultural events that happen here on a regular basis.
Okay.
Right? So we have what they call the Day of the Dead or the Dia de los Muertos events here in October 28th to November 2nd. And that's preceded by an art walk, generally speaking. And then we also have like Las Posadas, which is a 9-day celebration with music and dancers and everything else. We continue that, with as we go through October and going through, right, these are the cultural events that happen on a regular and consistent basis that bring thousands and thousands of people here to experience these types of events. And so we want to reinstitute those cultural events that are in partnership with the Olvera Street Merchants Association Foundation. And for me personally, what we'd like to do is reestablish this place as a premier tourist location and historical location for not only just the tourism, but also for kids that we talked about and college students, right? It is important that people understand what the history is of the city of Los Angeles and where we come from and how we've developed as a city and as a nation. And I think it all begins here. And so I think that people need to come in and appreciate the cultural events, appreciate the structures, appreciate the buildings for what they are, and the artwork that is everywhere here. And I think that once we do that and establish that, we should be one of the premier locations that people come from all over the world to see how Los Angeles, this huge city, started out in such a small location and spread out to be one of the largest cities and one of the biggest influencers around the country.
And on a very practical note, it's actually very easy to get here because you're across the street from Union Station.
Yes, it's very easy to get here through, Union Station is a hub, obviously, and with the connections that we have now with, all the different lines that are coming through, it is a place that you can come to, get off the train, come and visit, and get back on and go somewhere else.
If people want to get current on what's happening here and making sure that when they get here, they know what they can look forward to, what's the easiest way for someone to get information?
Facebook, Twitter, at El Pueblo LA, and also pueblo.lacity.org.